This video is proudly sponsored by DigimonCard.io for all your Digimon card, deck building, deck list, card pricing, and discussion needs.
Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 16 breakdown for the regionals in Europe hosted by Raid'nTrade's this past weekend. It's important because it was an April 1st regionals because that has the new Mulligan rule set in mind. It has the new Beelzemon cards in rotation, as well as it has the Greymon X from BT11 at 1 as well. So definitely a different format. We get that as our first big tournament this weekend here in North America. So here's just kind of a preview of what was going on over there, and I'm just really excited to go into it. It's pretty much kind of like a mid-season shift for BT11, especially since like we had like BT11 as like our nationals format, and then we had like the Ultimate Cup format, and now we kind of go back to a more regular format, but again, it's different for us, which is really cool to see as well. So going into the top 16, we did have 5 of the Beelzemon, but I will say like there's only 1 in top 8, so it's interesting to see so many top, but not like get into like the top 8 as much. 3 cross hearts, and they were 3 different builds. One was a cross 7, one was a hybrid build, and one was Merva, so like the hybrid like in between a cross 7 and a Merva build. 2 Ulforce, and then one of Grandis, which did win the event. Black or Gray X, a security control, a Bloomlord, a DarkKnight, which I'm actually really excited about, and also MetalGaruruX at the bottom end of the tournament instead of the top end like we're used to the past couple weeks. So we're going to go over the top placing list for each one of these archetypes, and all this information is on my website, Eggman Events. It's linked below. Please check out this website. I'm going to be updating it again for like BT11 post April 1st events too, but there should be a lot of resources there for anyone trying to get into the game. We're going into our first place list. This is Viktor's, aptly named Viktor, the victor of this tournament, first place Grandis here. And we've been seeing Grandis do a little bit, obviously like comparing it to like the Ultimate Cup format. This is a deck that, you couldn't run the X Antibody or the Analog Youth as in this build. Not that, I would say like some would play like a copy of X Antibody. The biggest thing that you were missing during Ultimate Cup format were 4 of these Grand Kuwagamon because it was down to 1 in that format. But I think this is a deck that just gets a little bit better with the idea of mulligans, especially with the mulligans that we have. It's not like bottom deck afterwards. You get to shuffle. So, if you see like some of their pieces, but you don't have like a way to start, you don't feel like you get punished for having to send all your top end to the bottom of your deck. So I think this is definitely a deck that gets a little bit more consistent with that. And if you're not really prepared for you to like just go off with this deck and just do a lot of damage, it will just win. You'll just be done pretty quickly. So I don't have really a lot to say about this deck because we've been seeing it quite a bit. We do have like some Terriermons and Palmamons to help, get into later turn, just prevent your opponent from going off as well. And then like the Analog Youth is a really interesting add, just being able to use it to be like a cheaper search technically than Green Mem Boost, but you only get to add 1 card. The X Antibody as well, being able to sometimes get your effects from there. And you also maybe get like a straight add off the Kuwagamon X as well. But I don't have a lot to say more about this deck. We've seen Grandis do well essentially for almost a year now, and I don't think it's going to ever like fade off until like at least in this format. I think it's still going to be very strong. So congrats again to Viktor for their first place finish there. Then we also have Jim's second place Black War Great X, and this is a pretty interesting list as well. So obviously we can only have 1 of the BT11 Greymon X, but honestly like the BT9 Greymon X is still really good for what it is. Like this is great. I mean obviously this is way better, but you still get some of the lines you do. You don't get the reduction as much as you used to, which does mean it might be a little bit trickier to go all the way up to level 6 from raising. And I do know like some people were talking about and experimenting with the Deltamon for their list to add, you lose the protection that the X antibodies give you, but you do keep the reduction essentially. So that might be something that pops up. Obviously it also messes up like your Greymon X plays in general, but this is the list here, and it's still pretty solid. Obviously I think it's just a little bit less consistent with the Greymons at 1, but this is still a really formidable deck for what you're doing. I still think like Metal Greymon is still like a very, very strong level 5 in a lot of ways. Causes a lot of disruption for this 3-hole Hades Forces, which I think this is really warranted because I think Crossheart is really good in this meta with this deck a little bit less favorable. So that's probably, it was one of the worst matches for Crossheart. So being able to, you still want to be able to punish those players, and I think you'll be seeing more of them. And then the top end is the Omni X from BT5. So I think this is a really good card for the Grandis matchup too, being able to prevent their attacks and make it so they can't, hit your security, I think is strong as well. Other than that, I think it's pretty standard for what we've been seeing for the last couple weeks for the Blackboard Greymon X. Again, just have to adjust to the changes, but very strong deck still. And congrats to Jim for their second place finish there. Next up, we have Ulforce. So this is Nils' third place Ulforce. And I would say like Ulforce is probably one of the slight winners from this new format. I think that being able to more like the mulligan helps this deck because you are kind of in the same way, trying to find the same stack. And you do have like a little bit of issues with the fact that you have to run a lot of tamers to get your effects off, and sometimes you have like really dead hands because you saw only tamers or you didn't see any, so being able to kind of refresh your hand is good there. And additionally, like just the fact that I think Blackboard Greymon X was a pretty hard matchup for this deck too, so since that deck usually, like in general, it sounds like it just takes a little bit longer for the deck to set up or a little bit less consistent, it means that this deck can also kind of punish that availability for that. So I think that's very strong. We do have the top end, like the whole chain is pretty much pretty generic. Most people kind of make the decision between having like some hybrids or running the Leomon package. The other Ulforce is the Leomon package for this one. But the Vidramon Zero I think is great too for potential additional draw, which is nice as well. And you do kind of like start decking yourself out with this deck pretty easily if you keep going with it. But Ulforce Vidramon, very strong. I do like the Mirage Galgamon as well as like a 1 of 4S. So I do think that kind of helps out the deck in a lot of ways, being able to it's just like a really cool like extension play, but also like disruption, because if your opponent draws cards out of their turn, like you get the memory back and you can end their turn without them being really able to do anything about it. And then you're kind of tamer lineup. There's also the offensive plugin A, which you have to as long as you have a tamer out, which is really easy in this deck, you can get the security attack +1. So I do like that as a way to potentially give more of a buff here. It also has the on the security effect, you can reveal top 3 to add a tamer and then add to your hand. So like this is honestly pretty important. Like it fits into this deck very well, and I could even see bumping this up to 2 if you find like you just need the additional security attack, which is great. You do have like jamming on this Arrow Vidramon, so jamming with security attack +1 is pretty strong for 2 checks, and I think that I don't know. It looks like the deck is. I like this like build for everything. So I don't have much more. Congrats to Nil on their finish there, that 3rd place. And next up we have Jorit with security control. And if there's one thing I haven't missed since doing the Ultimate Cup format, it is not facing against this deck, and it's back with the idea that you can use multicolors. Not much has changed from, I would say, like the previous iterations. I think this is still like a BT10 or like EX3 version of this deck too, right? The newest card is probably Deathexmon, if I'm reading this right. Maybe there's a option card. No, I think it's pretty much Death X. This is technically like a BT9 deck still, and it is a bit of a bully deck in a lot of ways. I think that this deck can always have a chance to do run very high. Chaos Degradation also at 4 in this format, since we had it at 1 in the Ultimate Cup format, is very strong. And we do like, if we look at the top 3, 2 of the decks above it are more of these OTKs. So like Grandis and Ulforce, and both of those just get super hit hard by some really good security that like a deck like this can run too. So I don't think a deck like security control is really ever going to fall out of favor in this game. I don't think it's going to be tough. Like it will never be like super duper top tier, because like when it is, then it kind of like takes itself out. It's kind of like a weird, choice there, but I think it's strong. I think you guys have to be prepared for this deck in general, and congrats to Jorit on their finish there. Next up we have Mattavut with their 5th place Cross Hearts. So we're going to go through all the Cross Hearts at the same time, and just to kind of show like the difference between them. But I'd say this is like a really standard Cross 7 package for it, even though like you don't have a much on the top, and you just have 2 of the Cross 7s, and then you have 2 of each of the pieces in there, and only 1 Cross 5, which is pretty surprising, because I feel like I want to run 2 or 3 with this, especially since this is moderately easy to be able to play for free, and it has the security attack +1, which is great in a lot of ways. It also has like the Death X and Crimson Blaze, so I've actually played I feel like I played like a very similar list with this because of the Death X and stuff, which again, Death X is back in this meta because, and Crossheart in general is back because neither of those cards you could play during the Ultimate Cup format. But I think Crossheart is probably one of the strongest decks going into this meta right now. It obviously won Worlds as well, and there are a couple ways to build it. So this is Mattavut's 5th place list for like just the generic how do I say, just the generic like Cross 7. We also do have like I'll go back to this one. So we're going to look at De Bruce David's 10th place version. So this is like the Merva rush version of it, and the idea is that this Mervamon is really great at playing a couple bodies and giving them rush. So you use cards like Gravity Crush and Blinding Ray to make sure you have enough memory to keep it your turn after you play your Mervamon, and then you get a couple of rush attacks which are pretty great, especially since like the rush attacks you get are like you can get cross 3, which like lets you draw more cards, which are good, and in the cross 4 essentially, like both these can be brought back with the Mervamon and get the attacks, and they're very strong there. So not much, but like this is obviously like a more aggressive build of it just because of that. And then we do have the 5th place, or sorry, the 6th place. So this is Stefan's version of it here too. So you see like not a lot of space for cards in this build, but being able to use both the Cross 7 package and the Mervamon as well. No options in this one, only Tamers and Digimon, which makes sense to me because again, it's very, very tight for, you know, adding all of these cards. And honestly, like the big surprise is that like when I was playing this, I liked like the cross the level 6 of these because you're able to use it for either target. But honestly, that as much as like the cost reduction is nice, the fact that you don't get the inheritables off either the Z Greymon or the Omni Shout is pretty rough. I'd rather pay more and like just get the Z Greymon with blocker or like you know, the security attack +1 off the Omni Shout than like the 2 cost reduction. Have something in my deck that's only meant to do that. So I think that's what a lot of people are finding, and I agree with that kind of idea that the reduction is not worth having like a potential dead card in my hand for the rest of the game. So we have that, and then we do have like the 2 Mervamons, which this can be used like defensively too, and like the fact that again, like this generates a lot of resources. If you have like a cross 4 and a cross 3 in your trash, you can use this. It's for 7, but you get to play both bodies, and you have 3 bodies. They all have blocker, and then both these cards draw you 2. So for 7 memory, you get to play 3 bodies. You get to draw 4 cards, and they all have blocker. That's pretty good value in a deck like this. And then, you know, if you're able to continue into your next turn, that's 3 attacks that are coming in the next turn too. So I think all that's very, very strong, and I like this build for it. This is kind of how I started playing this deck. I kind of leaned more to just cross 7, but it's nice to see that, you know, having the hybrid still works at the same time. So congrats to Stefan for their finish there. Next up, we have our first Beelzemon list here, and we do have a couple to go over, a couple that are in the document as well, if you guys want to mix and match for like choices in that. But it's just like the new deck in the block, just because instead of having like an expansion set, we just have this brand new like very big themed deck. So I will say, by and large, this archetype is somewhat open on the top end, but there's a lot of cards you kind of have to run, including most of your Impmons. So you do have to run a lot of those because it strictly calls out Impmon as a Digimon, not just the level 3 rookie, which makes sense for how it is. Wizardmon has such a good card. I feel like this is always going to be in this deck just because the gaining the 1 memory is so strong. We do also have the Witchmon, which trashes 3 on Digivolving, which is nice, and also just has the Wizard trait, which is great there too. We do also have the Baumon, so Digivolving trash 3, and when Digivolving this gains on deletion. If there are 10 or more cards in your trash, you can play a Beelzemon from your trash without paying its memory cost with an on deletion effect. So you can Digivolve into it, and if you can keep your memory, you can swing with it, and then if it does die or get deleted, you are able to go into your Beelzemon, which is nice. And obviously, like this Impmon as well, being able to when attacking, you have 20 more cards in your trash, you can Digivolve into Beelzemon from your trash with a cost of 3, which is great too. So being able to do the alternative Digivolution with this effect is strong in this deck. We do have like the EX2 one, which is great. We do have the Star Deck 14, which lets you trash, and when a card's trash, you gain 1 memory. So like being able to Digivolve here for 3, and then if you're able to gain enough memory to keep it your turn on the swing, you're doing a lot. And then like the new blast mode, and most people are playing like 1 or 2 of the Beel Stars as well. It's nice to have like the reduction for it, and then when a card is trash from your deck, you can play an Impmon and give it to Rush as well, which is nice. And then when an opponent's Digimon attacks, you trash the top. So when they attack with this card, you get like an Impmon for free for the next turn, and that's pretty strong. Demonic Disaster, being able to you play level 3 with a trash with a finger cost, and then no on plays, but being able to get like 1 back is nice, especially with all these Impmons that you have some potential. Even like Psychomon recycling is good. Deathslinger just for being able to gain the memory as well, so both it and Wizardmon can help you extend your plays. And do that. We have Darkness Wave to trash top 3. Pretty much the only thing you do with this, which is fine because you get so many effects off the top 3. And then we do have our new, this is the non-localized, I think it's like Rival's Bullet, I can't remember offhand, but when this card's trashed from your deck, you place it in your battle area, so either you get to delay to return something back to your hand next turn after you trash it, or you get a deletion. I see a lot of people running this at 3 or 4. I think it's very strong for what it is. It's a little bit slow at times, but I think it's great. And then using the new IE and Mako, unplay look top 4 adds a evil wizard or demon lord, and then rest of the bottom of your deck. Kind of wish it trashed, but that's fine. And then when your Digivolves into a purple Digimon, you can suspend this team to return 1 card from your hand to your deck to gain 1 memory. So you get to stack the top of your deck, gain memory, and so you can like put a Wizardmon or something. Like just the consistency that this adds for what you're trashing with your effects helps a lot too. So that is the entire deck and the idea of Beelzemon. I didn't make a video going over like the advanced stuff overall, but I think this is a really solid build. And you'll see a lot of people kind of going over this too. So congrats again to Max for their finish there. We have 3 more decks. This is Christina's Bloomlord. We saw a lot of Bloomlord during our Ultimate Cup formats. I think it was just one of the best decks, if not like the most popular deck, just because as you see, this is still just mono green for this build here. Not a lot to honestly go over. The only, except for Death X, like the one of, so that is obviously not mono green, but it's just like one card that you tech in because you can, but it's just super solid. And I like this card. It's probably just better than Nidhoggmon, to be honest, just on flexibility, because that's usually what the tech spot is right here if you're running the mono green like Ultimate Cup format, but I think that's fine. And this deck still goes off. The fact that you do also get hit by Death Xmon really does stink for this deck, and there's some other decks that just have a wider array of destruction and interaction with you, but you can still set up with this deck, and sometimes you get just to kind of get a soft lock on your opponent, and that feels pretty good. So I don't have much to say. I've been talking about this deck for like the last month. It's still good. I think it's not as good in the regular format, but it does also, I think, benefit from the idea of mulligans a lot too. So congrats to Christina for their finish there. Then we have Viet Phan's DarkKnight, and I'm excited this got top here. I really like this deck a lot. I know I will be the first to say it's not a tier 1 deck, but it does do a lot of fun things, and you can get some tops with it. It's just like Viet did as well. So really happy to see that. You are a deck that honestly just generally benefits from Death Xmon as well, just because it's in archetype kind of in a lot of ways. So that is very strong for you. Obviously, I think you get hit by Death X pretty hard as well, because you if your level 5s get Digivolve, this kind of stinks a lot of the time. But DarkKnightmon is just like a level 5 you get to play and get the on play. It's still a pretty strong effect for the Digivolve effect and just everything else you get with it. And we also are running like one of the immortal trash top 3. Then you can play DarkKnightmon for your trash for its memory cost. Yeah, you can cross there. So just getting like a recycle there later game, I think is good. And Schuman's good, Shikurimon's, Manimon, like just the whole package for it. So also, you can see, I haven't really mentioned this beforehand, but you'll see a lot more people running less rookies than you would normally run, and that's just kind of a benefit, I think, of the mulligan format of like, I can be a little bit riskier with some of my deck ratios and some of my tech choices and everything else, just because I do get like a little bit more consistency on turn 1, which is really nice. And so that kind of shows in this one, where honestly you don't need like a lot of rookies in this deck because you're playing a lot of your level 4s, and you get like a lot of recursion from that too. So you do get to be a little bit greedier with that too, which is quite nice. So again, really happy to see that this got a top in BT11, and congrats again to Viet Phan for their finish there. And lastly, an oldie but a goodie, it is Karl with this 16th place MetalGaruruX. And how far have we fallen with this deck list? I am so used to seeing at the top at the beginning of videos, and we are here at the end of this one with it. But honestly, it's still a solid deck choice. I don't know if it's just a case where people aren't playing it as much, but you do get to be greedy again with your consistency with this deck as well. You do, I still think like this deck sometimes just goes off and you can't really do anything about it. There are some tools though that kind of make that not as valid, but the fact that this still like WereGaruruX with WereGaru promo underneath it still does a lot of damage. That can still do 4 security pretty easily, and I think in a formula like this, if your opponent's not ready for it and you don't really need a lot of memory to really set up for this deck and a lot of consistency. It just goes off, and you feel really good about it. So I don't have a lot to say about this. I think that obviously I don't think it's as prevalent as it used to be, but I think it's still there. And if you want to play Melga and you do well, I still think you can do that. And I'm really interested to see if it's also like a cultural thing, because I know that there's a lot of MetalGaruruX players from North America who still stick and love playing with the deck, and be curious to see how it does this upcoming weekend for our regionals too. But that is going to be this breakdown in this video and everything for it. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure to go to Eggman events to check out these deck lists and other ones for the BT11 format, and that's going to be it for me. So again, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.